The TrekWorks YouTube channel is sponsored by Tenant Controls, makers of lighting kits, soundboards, and more. Tenant Controls brings your models to life. And by HDA Model Works, suppliers of scale model lighting products, detail parts, and complete model kits. Visit HDAModelWorks.com today. Hi there again, everybody. Boyd here with you, and welcome to part 2 of our Doomsday Machine diorama. Made a little bit of progress on it since the last video. I made a quick trip over to my local Hobby Lobby and bought the base that you can see we've got set up here. And I'm going to just talk about a little bit what I've done to it since the last video. We're not quite done yet. We're going to make one more video after this one to show the final of everything coming together. I'm waiting on some decals to come from JT Graphics for our little constellation here. We've got all the markings on that decal set that need to go on it. And thanks to one of our sharp viewers out there that caught that on the first video that I put out, I had the registration number wrong on the nacelles there. I had NCC 1710 and it's supposed to be 1017. So I removed those, and we'll get that corrected when we get our new decals in here. But here's what we've got going on the base. Just went to Hobby Lobby and picked up this little, it's sort of a hollow plaque, if you want to call it that. If you go to their home decor department, they have these signs that you can hang up, and this one said welcome home on it. And you just basically sand it down and paint it the way you want it to look, and mount your stuff on it. It works really great. It's made out of that MDF material, like a high density particle board, so it's pretty strong, and it's hollow, so you can put switches, and you can put, you can see we've got our mounting tubes and everything on here. And I put a couple little feet underneath of it to get it off the ground a little bit. What I've also done is I've wired in my soundboard and my special effects features back there. I've got the switches on the back. I wanted everything to be clean up front. And I decided to paint this to look like the TOS Star Trek original series, the consoles that we saw all over on the Enterprise and stuff that were black with that red trim. So I wanted to give it that retro look. And then I've wired in some red LEDs underneath of the base, just some strip LED, double density red, and so we get a nice red glow that comes out from underneath of the base when we turn everything on. Gives it kind of a modern look. Everything was really easy to set up. I've got everything mounted on here now. The Constellation is just sitting on here temporarily because I've got to be able to lift it back up, and I've got slack on the wires there so I can take it back off and apply all the decals, because we got to get on the top and the bottom. But the Doomsday Machine's mounted on here permanent. I just used a couple of sheet metal screws, and I drilled through the bottom of the base up into the resin planet there. That's a solid piece of resin, and put the screws in there to hold it in place. So it's really strong, but I still have the ability to take it off of there if I ever want to. I didn't want to glue it. Then we've got our little miniature, tiny little Enterprise up here attacking the Doomsday Machine with our phaser strikes bouncing off. Again, I explained how I did that. It's just some wire. It's solid copper core wire. It's actually the phasers themselves, and then where the strikes are, those are just finer pieces of wire that I just cut in little pieces and made them look like they're bouncing off. Glued it all together, and then painted it with some fluorescent red to give it that look, and that holds the little model in place there. I've got a hole drilled in it so I can take it off there if I ever want to move it or anything and not damage it. But so that's all worked out really good. Now here you can see this really nice logo that I got from Jerry at HDA Model Works. This is a painting mask, so this is actually painted on here, and it's the actual the font and everything that we saw at the beginning of the original episode. And I thought that would look pretty cool because this little area of the base, there wasn't really much going on there. And I thought that would kind of spruce it up a little bit. I just did a basic star field up on the top here, which was really easy to do as well. I just took, painted it black first, and then I just took a paintbrush and dipped it in some white paint and stood back and just flicked it at the, I stood it up on end and just flicked it at it and just got that kind of splattered look, but it gave a really nice star field on here. And then I just went around a few spots here and there and put a few dabs of red that you can see. And if you remember the original series, the star field, they often had those little red dots in the background. Not the CGI version, but the original version, which is the way I still like to watch my original Star Trek. I just don't like the CGI. Call me old-fashioned, but I still like to see the models and everything. But so that's how it's looking, guys. It's coming along really well. As I said, now I've put a soundboard in this too. I picked up a bunch of dialogue from the episode. Of course, the famous part with Decker where he's describing the Doomsday Machine, where he gets real emotional and everything. That was a really memorable part. And then some stuff with Scotty and Kirk and all that. And so we'll save that, though, to the very end, and we'll kind of keep that as a little surprise. But I've also wired in some, sound for the death ray out of the Doomsday Machine that strikes the constellation, and I put a little surprise to go along with that. So I'll show you first how everything looks in regular lighting here. I'm just going to turn the power on. And you can see we've got the Doomsday Machine itself lights up when the power comes on. We've got the little lights on the secondary hull that come on. We've got our fire flickering effect here down inside. I'm going to show you this in some low light in just a second, and I'm going to explain then how I set everything up. But you can kind of see the red glow coming out from underneath of it here. It looks really nice if you got the lights down just a little bit. So I haven't got the control board yet. We've got the flickering effect going on inside the saucer, but we're going to also have another one that's going to happen right in here, this kind of electrical short effect that we're going to put in. And then we're going to put on all the decals from JT Graphics on the model and everything and get that all spiffed up and looking, with all of its markings on it, it'll look a lot better. It'll make that little model look really, really nice. So, it's coming along really nice. And, you can get these little bases. Talking about that again, I got this for like $12. Well, it was $12, and then I used my 40% off at Hobby Lobby, so I got it for, I think it was around $8 or something like that. So you can't beat that. And they make great little display bases. So let me turn the lights down real quick, guys, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how everything's looking, and we'll show you some of the special effects and talk about where we're going to go from there. Okay, be right back, everybody. Okay, here we are again with a look at the display and some low lighting now. And now you can see our nice red glow coming out from underneath of the base. Pretty happy with how that looks. It gave it a little bit more of a modern look. And that's just a couple of LED strips like I talked about in red. The double density stuff just stretched across the front and the back. And it pretty much lights up the whole thing all the way around. And then we got our Doomsday Machine lit up here. I'm pretty happy with that. Too bad the decal didn't work out, but it still looks really good. I really like the lighting that's coming out of it pretty much just as it is, so nothing really lost there. And here's our little constellation. You can see we've got the fiber optics lighting up the secondary hull there. Those are just hooked up to main power, so they come on as soon as I turn on the power switch. But that's supposed to simulate the the auxiliary control room, like I said, where they found Decker. I think that was in the secondary hull. I could be wrong, but then down here we've got on the saucer, you can see we've got the fires going on in there. As I talked about in the opening, we just used a flickering LED. I actually probably should have just put it inside the model, but I was thinking the control board was going to do that. But so I just took another 5mm flickering LED, mounted it in the base, and used that as a controlling unit. You just wire it in series, and then the following LED behind it will do what it does. So we got the flickering going on inside there. That's pretty cool. A little bit more over on this side here, not quite as much. I wanted it to look a little bit different. You can kind of see a little bit of it in there. And then right here in this corner here, we don't have the control board yet, but as I talked about, we're going to have that blue sort of electrical short effect, or like a welding, like when somebody's welding, kind of a look like that. of the electrical shorts, you know, going on in there where there's been some damage, and that'll contrast really nice with the fire effect. And so I should have that board here from Ralph at Tenant Controls pretty soon. I've just got the extra wires for that tucked underneath of the base here, and we'll hook all that up in the next video. And also waiting for our decals from JT Graphics to get here, and so that shouldn't take too long either, and we'll get this all wrapped up in the final video that we put out after this one. But one little surprise that I rigged up in this thing that I wanted to show you guys, as I talked about in the opening, I put a sound card in this. I've got some dialogue for the episode with some of the, you know, stuff from Scotty and Kirk and Decker and all the, you know, the stuff that we're used to from the episode, some of the more memorable lines, or some good lines in the episode. And we'll save that whole thing for the end too, for a little surprise. But we also have the sound effect of the death ray that comes out of the Doomsday Machine, and coincidentally it's the same exact sound effect that they had from the Klingon Disruptor, either if it was on the ship or the handheld, you know, pistol version. And you know, they were kind of on a budget back then, so they kind of used whatever they could. But it's a pretty cool sound. And to go along with that sound, I wanted to have a lighting effect. I wanted to show the poor little constellation here getting hit by the death ray. So what I've done here is I've put two 3mm LEDs in orange. One's mounted right underneath of the saucer here, and one's mounted just right back here underneath of the nacelles. And they're mounted flush, so when they're not working, you can barely see them. You don't even notice them unless I told you they were there. But we've got it wired up to a switch, our momentary switch, and so when we play the sound of the death ray from the Doomsday Machine, it lights up underneath of the model and kind of illuminates it and gives it a, you know, an illusion that it's being hit or something. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how that looks. Let me get my camera just right here. I got to kind of reach in the back and get this button, this momentary switch. But let's have a look. We'll do it once more. You can see that lights that up pretty good and gives that nice little illusion. And I'll show it to you from above. You can just see those two LEDs there, but when they go out, they're not even noticeable. So now I have this set up on a switch because the soundboard, the way this is designed, is that it will light those LEDs anytime there's a sound coming out of it. So I just put a little on and off switch in there to interrupt that. So like when I'm playing the dialogue part, I don't want that to light up. I don't want that to be going on the whole time. So I just turn that switch off when I'm playing the dialogue, and you won't see any light there, and we play the whole thing. Now when I want to see the disruptor effect, I just turn it back on. So it's pretty simple. But there you go, guys. There's a look at everything on the display so far. I'm real happy with how it's turning out. Glad to see a couple of you guys have let me know that you've ordered this kit, the Doomsday kit, and you're working on one of these yourself. That's what these videos are all about. I like to share this with you guys and maybe give you some ideas that you can expand on and stuff like that. And I love to see people out there building their own version of this stuff and see what you guys come up with. So that's really cool, and I'll definitely check out your videos or your pictures when you're working on them too. So keep it coming, guys. That's pretty cool stuff. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this one. We'll be back, I don't know, maybe a week or so, depending on when we get our decals, to finish up the constellation. And then we'll do a final video that shows everything all finished up. And until then, guys, we'll see you next time. Until then, take care, and happy modeling, everyone.